So today we're going to talk about why would you want to study chemistry? It seems like it's hard. It's got a lot of math. Well, there are at least a few reasons why you would want to study it. And so the first thing, there are three general reasons why you want to study chemistry, and you need to know all three of these. So that would be one of those things I'd suggest you highlight or put a star by, indicating I will ask you questions about it. So, the first is explaining the natural world. It helps you understand why, if you cut an apple, it turns brown, or when you hard boil an egg, you get that green ring around the egg if you overcook it. Why water expands when it freezes. There's all sorts of things. Some of these seem to overlap with biology, which they do, like why does yeast make bread dough rise? And that's both chemical and biological. So there is an overlap with other disciplines as well. So if you're going to be a doctor, you would need to take a lot of chemistry to get through that coursework. So the second reason would be preparing you for a career. And it may not be as obvious as you think, but let's say you're a reporter. You don't need chemistry for that. Well, you do, because if you're going to investigate something like a chemical spill, you would want to know something about chemistry and why is it important. And you may come across a chemist during that course of investigation that you're going to interview and ask some questions of. And so you'll have to have some background knowledge to be able to understand what he or she is talking about. And the third one would be preparing for a career. And here we see some turf managers. It looks like maybe a baseball field. I'm not sure. And they have to keep the grass clean and healthy. And there's a lot of chemistry that goes into that. Fertilizer is good, but too much fertilizer is bad. And it can actually cause brown spots and stuff in your turf. Maybe you're a firefighter at EKU, Eastern Kentucky University, where I was a tenured professor. They had a specific course in chemistry for firefighters, so they would know based on the chemical hazmat information how to treat that fire. Like if you had a grease fire on your stove, please don't put water on it. That will only make it worse. You would want to put baking soda on it to smother the flames rather than try and put them out with water. Another reason you want to study chemistry is to be an informed citizen. Right now, there's a lot of information going out about the coronavirus, and some of it is hogwash, and some of it is good information. And you need to be able to discern between those two types of information and be able to vote responsibly and act responsibly in your adult life. So you'll need to make choices about funding and research, etc., when you vote. And so you need to make sure you're an informed citizen, well rounded, that you've been educated in both chemistry, biology, physics, if you like, and things like history, etc. So often in research, there's not one correct answer, but you should be able to evaluate the claims presented or the data presented and make an informed opinion based on your knowledge of chemistry. So, which of the following careers would require understanding of chemistry? Chef, doctor, farmer, all of the above. I'm going to give you a little minute to think that through. And the answer is all of those. Because a chef has to understand how to put out a grease fire. A doctor obviously has to understand the chemistry within your body. And a farmer has to understand things like fertilizer and things like that. So, what are some outcomes of modern research in chemistry? And this is kind of interesting to me anyway. So, numerous items that you use every day are a product of technology. which could be based on chemistry. The cereal you eat, the sneakers that you wear, the car you drive, all sorts of things that you take for granted are part of chemistry. Technology is one of your vocab words. It's the means by which society provides its members with those things needed and desired. We all want the new cell phone. We all want the latest, fastest computer, the new video game. All of that is technology. Modern research in chemistry can lead to technologies that aim to benefit the environment, conserve and produce energy, improve human life, and expand our knowledge of the universe. And this has that little key next to it, which means it's a key point that this is one of those things that we want to make sure you understand. So, and it's also in bold, which would be another clue that maybe you should uh, know that. So, materials. Chemists don't just study, they can also learn about its structure, properties. They can make new things that have an improved function. And so they play a large role in plastics. In fact, my husband works for the company that makes lucite acrylic, which those dividers that are at your lunch tables, those are lucite acrylic. And so that's what he makes. Another thing that we're going to spend a lot of time in chemistry is interpreting graphs and data. And so I need you to be able to look at a graph and answer some questions. So each unit will likely have an interpret graphics worksheet for you to do. And this is to help you with your ACT scores. So there is concern about the use of plastics. Plastics are not good or bad in and of themselves, but they can be used and overused. And so we're trying to reduce the amount of plastics used today. So they have some plastics that are being made with petrochemicals, and we're trying to move over to products that are derived from something else, like corn is a good example. We can grow a lot of corn, and we can make some polymers out of corn. Those would be called a bioplastic. Energy. There are only two ways to meet the rising demand for energy. We either have to conserve or produce more, and that producing more can't come from fossil fuels because that's a limited resource. But chemistry does play a vital role in expanding things like hybrid cars, which would be conserving fossil fuels, and they can develop new types of fuels either from electricity or other forms. It doesn't have to be something we burn or like a direct replacement for a hydrocarbon. Medicine and biology. Chemistry helps supplies new medicine, materials. Also can be used to develop materials like at University of Memphis. There's a department of biomedical engineering where they actually engineer parts like new replacement knees, new replacement hips, things like that. We've had some success with replacing arteries with plastic tubing, and like I said, hips and knees. So we also have some new medicines that are coming out that actually target DNA, which is kind of interesting in their gene therapies. And you probably read or heard about them, and they're sometimes thought to be very detrimental, and that's not necessarily the case. But that's one reason you'd want to study chemistry, is to understand what could be good or what could be bad about technology. So if you know anyone in your life that's relies on insulin, that was a chemist that actually developed and figured out what was wrong and helped to find a replacement for insulin. There were also biologists on the team. If you've I used to teach astronomy here. I'm not teaching it this year, which is kind of sad, but The Mars rover is a vehicle that was designed with certain chemicals to and new technologies to actually probe the surface of Mars to look at the composition of the soil, collect data and send it back to Earth, and also figure out if there's water on Mars. Because if there's water on Mars, it's possible there could be life. So, how can chemistry be used for evidence on other planets? There's a lot of data that we can analyze from stars to determine what's the chemical composition of that um, object, whether it's a star or a moon or a planet. So, name one way in which chemistry can be used to help modern society. And there's endless answers here, so you don't have to just look at these. You can use any that you find. So, we're getting to the end of this section. We've gotten to the key concepts, and these are things that if you don't have in your notes, you should definitely add. I'm not going to read them to you, but they're there, and then so make sure you have these down. And now we're on to the only vocab word for this section, which is technology. You should definitely have that down as well. And here's the big idea for section 1.2. Chemistry is relevant to many professions, and knowledge of chemistry can help you be an informed citizen to make good decisions. And that's the end of this section. Thank you for listening. I'll see you back in class.